Devil May Cry, a game franchise that I thought would never get an anime, especially a second one. There are two types of fans when it comes to watching this anime. The hardcore fans who have complained about every single little thing in this anime because it's not a exact replica of the games, and the new fans who are kind of new to this world that we call Devil May Cry. As a person who is not a hardcore fan but has dabbled in the DMC games from time to time and knows the lore and story fairly well, I thought I fit the two types of fans pretty well. So I felt like I could give a pretty fair opinion of this anime. I judged this anime off of two things. One, how good is it at adapting the video games? Two, is it simply just a good anime? But now onto the first thing that I am dying to talk about when it comes to the Devil May Cry anime, Dante. I like Dante as a character. I love his goofy personality. Some of his jokes can be a little cringy sometimes, but they never get old. But I do have a ton of problems with Dante in the anime. Problem one, his strength just doesn't make sense. Dante in the first 2 or 3 episodes is stronger than he is in the later episodes, which just is illogical. Because later on, he unlocks his devil trigger, but for some reason when he unlocks his devil trigger, he just becomes so damn weak. Before Dante unlocks his devil trigger, he is beating up guys with ease. In episode 3, he gets past and takes down all of the demons that are part of the White Rabbit's crew, but then an episode or 2 later, he then faces the same demons that he fought earlier, but then struggles against them this time, and he has his devil trigger unlocked, so he should be stronger this time. And not to mention everything with Lady, where Dante is consistently getting captured by Lady. And I'm not one of those people that complain about the show making Dante too weak. That's not my problem with it. I wouldn't care if Dante started off weak at the beginning of the show, but over time he should get stronger throughout the show. But instead of Netflix progressing Dante's strength over the course of the anime, they just make him weak or strong whenever the plot needs it. It's just lazy writing. When in the games, we see Dante's strength progress over time, which is how it should be in the anime as well. My second major complaint with Dante is his character arc. Now, I personally think that Netflix had the right idea with Dante's character arc, but it was just poorly executed. The first mistake was making Dante an idiot, and I'm strictly talking to him reacting to his powers. In the second episode, we see Dante get shot in the chest by a shotgun, and of course he instantly regenerates. So when shit like this is happening to Dante, it should be pretty damn obvious that he's no ordinary human. But for the first half of the series, he stands on a strong belief that he is just solely human, not demon whatsoever. With him thinking that he was gifted with these supernatural abilities because he's some kind of hero. And you could make the argument that Dante just simply doesn't want to accept that he is part demon, but it just doesn't feel that way in the anime like it does in the games. In DMC 3, it's easy to tell that Dante simply just doesn't want to accept his demon side and doesn't accept Sparta as his true father. But in the anime, he really does just feel like an idiot. And this is confirmed when he is fighting the red and blue demons in the plane. Dante ends up awakening his devil trigger for the first time with his arm transforming. And right when he sees his arm transform, he instantly accepts that he is a demon, that he is Sparta's son. No internal conflict like in DMC 3, where Dante has to eventually come to accept his demon side and who he truly is. So after Dante knows about his super healing, super strength, super speed, he never once puts the pieces together or just questions if he really is a ordinary human. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. And moving back into the eternal conflict, it's stupid how Dante just instantly accepts himself as a demon and Sparta's son. Dante's whole entire life, he has hated demons for supposedly killing his brother and his mother, and that is stated and made very clear in the anime. So for him to have no internal conflict whatsoever about being half demon by being the thing that he truly hates is just lazy writing. And for some reason, they decided to flesh out Lady's character arc, but not Dante's. Netflix really did miss the mark with Dante as a character. But some things I do like about Dante is his character design. Don't get me wrong, it would have been sick seeing his character design in DMC3 in the anime, but I still really like the design that Netflix went with. This is also a very unpopular opinion, but I love Johnny Botch as Dante. I think he fits the role perfectly. I know that he voices Nero in the games, but even then, I still really do love him as Dante. Now moving on to the next main character, Lady. Now, another unpopular opinion that I personally have is that I personally don't hate Lady in the DMC anime. I know everyone hates her in the anime because she is nothing like she is in the games, but I'm not just gonna hate on Netflix for trying something new. And I personally think that Netflix did a way better job at handling Lady's character than they did with Dante's character. First, getting into her character arc. I think her character arc was pretty well done. I think it was pretty well paced, and I think she has a really good internal conflict. And to all the people that say that her character arc was ruined because she captures Dante at the end of season 1, I personally have to disagree with that. You can tell that Lady is very, very conflicted about capturing Dante at the end of season 1. And she also questions if she's making the right choice. I know Dante saved her life on multiple occasions, and how Dante and her both fought against and took down the White Rabbit. But this happened over the course of probably a week or two. She's not just gonna automatically flip a switch, just change her perspective and how she feels about demons in a week. It's gonna take more time than that. But you can tell by the end of the season compared to the start of the season that she is starting to change her perspective on demons and actually coming to trust Dante. And I could very well see Lady leaving Darkcom and teaming up with Dante in season 2 or maybe even season 3. So I actually think Netflix made the right choice by extending Lady's character arc, possibly even a couple more seasons. But now getting into her dialogue. Her dialogue is pretty bad. Of course, everyone knows about her consistent swearing that she does in the show, which I don't think it would be as bad as it is if the other characters in the show also cussed and sweared. I can't recall a single moment where Dante, the White Rabbit, the Vice President, or really any main character for that matter even said one swear word in the entire show. So every single time Lady swears, which is a lot, she sticks out like a sore thumb. Because it really does feel like Netflix is trying to make her some super badass, cool character by having her swear so much. But instead, it really just kind of makes her cringe. Also, her strength is all over the place, just like Dante's. One thing you know, she's taking on a swarm of demons. Next thing you know, she's struggling against one demon. Netflix is being lazy and doing whatever they want to move the story forward. And as a whole, I really don't hate this version of Lady. Sure, she might be better in the games, but I still don't necessarily hate what Netflix decided to go with here. But talking about new things that Netflix decided to try with the DMC anime, the main villain, the White Rabbit. Netflix absolutely cooked with this character. Because as I mentioned, Dante and Lady have a fair amount of problems with their characters. But I really can't think of any problem that the White Rabbit has with his character. And I would even go as far to say that this is one of the best anime villains that I have seen in a long time. Every time he is on screen, he was by far the most entertaining character. His dialogue, his motivations, his ideology, his moments, they're all top tier. He quite easily is the best character in the show. I also really like the contrast that his character brings to the show, with his whole character being about how humans are really the true monsters while demons aren't. I know this whole concept with demons being good and the whole concept with demon refugees isn't really a thing in the games, but as I mentioned, I really like this idea. This shows just how evil humans can really be and just adds a lot more depth to the Devil May Cry world. And of course, the White Rabbit is not in the games, but this is where Netflix attempted something new and it worked out. Like, really worked out. And I know some people probably wish for Virgil to be the main antagonist, or maybe even Arkham to be the main antagonist of season 1, but I think the White Rabbit was an excellent first villain for the Devil May Cry anime. The overall story of the Devil May Cry anime isn't bad. Obviously, it's nothing crazy, but I think Netflix did a pretty good job with what they had to work with. Because obviously, they can't just basically copy and paste the game into an anime. And if you think about it, each DMC game is probably about 7 or 8 hours long, with about 2 to 1 hours of that time just being cutscenes. So Netflix would have had to add in a lot more extra content, change a lot of things about their overall story to make the story work. The pacing is pretty good, the animation is pretty good. Netflix did use a lot of CGI for the fights, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's definitely not the worst CGI I've seen in an anime, so I'm gonna give Netflix a pass on that. But going into season 2, I would love to see the fights be fully animated with no CGI. And speaking of season 2 and just the overall future of the Devil May Cry anime, I think this anime has a very bright future, and I'm very excited for season 2. There has been some leaked footage of season 2 already, with Dante having his longer hair, him also having Ivory and Ebony. Virgil is probably going to play a big role in season 2 as well, and I really hope he doesn't get the same treatment that Dante did in season 1. And speaking of Dante, hopefully Netflix redeems his character and just fixes the problems with his character as a whole in season 2. But as a whole, I think season 2 has a lot of really good things to look forward to, and that's why I'm excited for it. If we're just talking about the DMC anime and how good it is as a adaptation to the games, I would say it's bad. It's not the greatest at adapting the games. Of course, Dante is way more better in the games than he is in the anime. Lady's way more different. A new antagonist that has never been seen in the games before, even though I do love the White Rabbit as a villain. And just a lot of little things here and there in the anime that do not follow the games. But if we're just talking about the quality of the DMC anime, I would say this is a pretty damn good anime. I really enjoyed it. I feel like this anime gets so much unnecessary hate just because it's not a one-to-one exact replica adaptation to the games. I get it, Netflix could have adapted a lot of things a lot better, but for adapting a video game to a anime, which I would say that adapting video games into shows, movies, animes, whatever it may be, is the hardest thing to do compared to any other medium. Just because video games are so different from comic books, novels, movies, TV shows, anime. So I would say that Netflix did a pretty damn good job of delivering a good anime nonetheless, even if it isn't the perfect adaptation. And even if you are a die-hard DMC fan that absolutely hates this anime, the Devil May Cry anime was still positive for the overall Devil May Cry franchise. 1, it's making the franchise way more mainstream. 2, the games have exploded in popularity since the anime came out. Well, anyways, peace.